I'm gonna wait here. I'm just about in the back of the room. I'm just about settled. Just give me a minute or two here. A couple seconds. Okay, getting closer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, there I am. Good morning, my psychology class. It's nice to see everybody here on this Friday, first Friday in December. Not going to have that many Fridays in December, given that 2 weeks from today we are off on the holiday break, right? We only have 10 school days left till we have a couple weeks off. Crazy how fast the year is going. A few things I want to accomplish this morning with you. First, I want to make some comments on the film we watched yesterday about how juveniles were treated in the mental hospital setting in the 1980s. And then I want to bring that current with what will dominate your day today, which is the in-class writing on the article I handed out. And then I want to tell you about what I would like you to do if you finished the in-class writing early, and just kind of generally a couple things about where we're headed. So let's start with our movie yesterday. Kind of unsettling, right? The film featured three, I think, different settings. One was the place called Elan, E-L-A-N, where the teens were screaming at each other, and the kid who ran away was had to wear shackles and wear the rabbit suit and all that. Remember that? The director was kind of a hardcore guy who really believed that this behavior kind of had to be beat out of kids. There were the two kids living out of the garbage dumpster. That place ended up getting shut down. Not terribly surprising, right? Not terribly surprising. That approach, that humiliate, remember you'd have to wear a sign around your neck that said what it was that you had supposedly done wrong. That approach to treating problem teens was viewed as, in fact, ridiculously harsh. And that place is no more. It didn't last too terribly long after that film was created. And it kind of feeds into, I think, where psychology is heading now. One of the things I'm going to show you next week, probably Monday, Tuesday, I would say, I'm fascinated by the prison system. The prison system. It's a little bit of a switch, but bear with me. The prison system in Germany and Norway. Here's what they do. They treat people as prisoners, even consistent with what they want the prisoners to be. Okay, so think this through with me. What do you want for a prisoner? What do you want for someone in prison? Well, you want them to be able to live as a fully functioning member of society. That's what you want. You want them to get along in the real societal world. That's the goal. So what they do is they treat people consistent with how people live in real life society. So instead of having these sparse prison cells, for example, they have kind of mini apartments. And instead of being always confined, you have times when you can go out into society and see your family. And right, there's this process of saying, here's what we want you to be. We're going to expose you to it so that when you get out of here, you can act in conformity with our expectations. If you think about it, it's a lot like our classroom. I say to myself, what do I want my students to be? Well, I want them to be mature adults who can handle conversations and are self-motivated and do what adults do. So what do? I treat you consistent with that, and then you come to that level, right? And that's how we walk together. And you know that not every teacher does that. Some teachers treat you like you can't handle responsibility, and so you get that, a lot of rules, a lot of rigidity. And I was thinking about our mental health system, and I was thinking about a mental health system that asked itself, what do we want from our mental health patients? What do we want for them? What do we want them to be? Well, we want them to be productive members of society. So instead of locking them away, as you can see, historically we locked them away. We literally locked the door on their rooms, even though they weren't prisoners, but we locked them, we treated them like prisoners. Instead of that, what if the mental health system treated them more consistent with our classroom, with the German and the Norwegian prison system, where we said, we're going to treat you consistent with what we want you to be. We want you to be productive members of society. That's how we're going to treat you while you're in here. And that, I think, is the whole point of your writing today in this silent writing. The article is essentially suggesting that the Brits are leading the way. And remember, it was the Brits we watched the historical video of with those horrible asylums and things. That was the Brits. Now today, the Brits are essentially saying, you know what? The line between who's normal and who isn't, I'm not sure that's a line anybody can really recognize or identify or say. All of us have thoughts and behaviors sometimes that could be considered abnormal or that could be considered clinically problematic. And can we really think in those terms? Is it really beneficial to people to think in those terms? And we'll talk more about your silent writing on Monday after I have a chance to see how well you were able to read it and process it and think it through. Also in yesterday's film, we saw Billy at Sagamore, the state hospital. It was interesting. Billy is the one who had the girlfriend and who'd go home on Sundays with Dad. And actually, no, I'm sorry, that was Brian. Brian would go home with Dad on Sundays. Kind of fascinating, wasn't it? Remember the girlfriend saying, Brian is not different to me. There's nothing wrong with Brian, in my view. There's nothing wrong with him. And that's very much consistent with the article that you're going to write about today. This idea that maybe these labels aren't really helping us. Maybe the line between normal and abnormal, really, maybe there is no real line. I was struck by the girlfriend saying, I don't see anything about him that's problematic. And I hope you were too. So basically then today, the idea is you spend your class period working on the silent writing. A little different this time. The focus is on reading. So I have some specific questions for you to answer. 4 questions that are designed to test your reading strategies. Please note, none of those questions have 1 or 2 sentence answers. If you find yourself stopping after 1 or 2 sentences, you're probably not there. You're probably not doing it correctly. So just know that they require some pretty complex, pretty deep thinking. You have the entire class period to do it. As usual, if you should finish early, what I want you to do is read in our textbook, continue reading. Excuse me, we're in the chapter on psychic disorders. So far, we really just did the introduction. I want you now to start pushing forward deeper into the chapter. That's pages 577 to 593. And you're going to see now we're going to start to get into phobias, which are fears, and all the different kinds of fears that people have of different things. We're going to start talking about depression, which is the most common psychological disorder by far. So if you finish the in-class writing early, please go ahead and read. Ms. Nelson, because you have already finished the in-class writing, please feel free to go ahead and read in the book, or quite frankly, I would say you have earned the opportunity to treat the class period as you wish. If you have other work to do, if you'd prefer to listen to music, I would say that's entirely up to you. Okay, that's all for me now. Let's do your best work. Por favor, we are coming up on, pretty close to the end of a semester. Let's keep those grades up, folks. A lot of you freshmen are rocking and rolling on this class. You're doing a great job of keeping your grades up. And so here's to you. I'll be in the back of the room. Bye-bye.